Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, wherever you're joining us from. And I'm delighted to welcome you to the first session of this Out of the Wings in Focus, Black Playwrights of the Spanish and Portuguese speaking worlds. On this final day of the week-long Winter Warmer, which is hosted online by Omnibus Theatre London. My name is Rosa Andújar. I'm a lecturer at King's College London and a member of the Out of the Wings Collective, and I will be chairing this session, which is focusing on Colombia-Pacifico. Before I introduce my guests, I would like to just share with you just some Zoom housekeeping. So the session right now is being recorded and will be made available on our YouTube channel in the coming days. The automatic captioning facility is available. And if you wish to switch this off, you can do so through your Zoom settings. And towards the end of the session, we're going to invite questions from you. You can ask us about anything that we've touched on in our panel, but please use the Q&A function on your Zoom screens for this. You can do this throughout the session. I'll just keep an eye on the questions. And you also have the option to upvote other people's questions if they have something similar to your own question. Right, so today, welcome to our focus on Colombia-Pacifico. So I'm just going to very briefly introduce our panelists, but I'd like to remind you that their full bios are available on the event's website. So first of all, we have, I'm delighted to welcome Manuel Francisco Viveros, who's a theater actor, director, educator, and researcher. He has starred in several plays on the Colombian stage. He's also been involved with various projects across Colombia, including Young Creators from the Coast, in which he premiered a play called Con Carne y Sin Pescado, an adaptation of Derek Walcott's No Chicken, Beef, No Chicken. He's also directed the Interschool Theater Festivals in Buena Ventura, about which you'll be hearing a lot today. And then he was also the head of the Dramatic Arts BA course at the Universidad del Valle, the Pacific branch in Buenaventura, which all three of our panelists have taught on. He's also a fellow of Manos Visibles, and he's currently pursuing a PhD in Spanish at New York University. Welcome, Manuel. We also have Eddy Janeth Mosquera Hinestroza, who's a theater educator and playwright. She also taught at the Dramatic Arts BA course at the Universidad del Valle in Buenaventura, but she has been writing plays since 2011, and her plays include, I'll just read you a number of her titles, and we'll have a chance to talk about some of these today. She's written Por mi puta madre, La Gata, Iceberg, Esquizoide, Trastornos, all of which deal with a wide range of subjects from abortion to the Catholic Church. And more recently, her play Las Mujeres de Sara, The Women of Sara, addresses the racialization of sexuality and racism, and has been featured in a recent book, a 2019 book called Autores Afrocolombianos, Dramaturgia para la Liberación y la Escena, which was written by the Cali dramaturg Rodrigo Vélez. And she's also the founder of Gimnasio para Escritores, which is an online e-learning course aimed at writers of fiction. And finally, we have Joanna Robledo, she's an actor, a director, and an educator. She's a member of the research group Laboratorio Escénico Univalle, through which she has participated in various national and international festivals, so in Colombia, but also in China and in Spain. She also belongs to the artistic laboratory Siete Sorongos, and is the director and founder of the artistic laboratory Turín Teatro, through which she staged Mina, un Boyek con acento de Buenaventura. And I think we'll see a trailer about that today. But since 2016, she also teaches at the BA Dramatic Arts course at the Universidad del Valle, where she's directed various plays, including also we have Queloide, about which we'll hear today, which has won various awards and was recently featured in a virtual encounter of mujeres, of Afro women in theater in Peru. So yes, so we have a great deal to talk about. So please, join me in welcoming our guests. So I think because, in the interest of time, and because we have so much, and for all of you guys, I think you should be aware that I think from the bios that all of our panelists are deeply involved and immersed in Colombian theater, not just, sort of playwriting, like with Eddy, directing, like Joanna, and acting, actually both Joanna and Manuel, but all three of them have taught on the Dramatic BA Arts course. So they also can tell us a little bit about the way in which theater is taught in Colombia. But before everything, I think we were going to start, because we have our session focused on Colombia-Pacifico. We wanted to just basically very briefly address the unique geographical context of Colombia. So I think Manuel has sent me some maps for us to share. And if you wouldn't mind, Manuel, maybe you can just very briefly tell our audience members a little bit about what Colombia-Pacifico means while I share the screen. I'll turn it over to you, Manuel.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I want to say thank you and say hello to all the people who are connected right now. So we have those maps. Colombia is right in the middle of America, the whole continent. So that's interesting to start to talk about what America we have to create again. I think it's the whole continent and not only some part. We are right in the middle. And this special position gave us the possibility to have coast in both seas. We have coast in the Atlantic, in the Caribbean at the north, and we have this at the west. We have the Pacific coast. The particular thing here is that the Andes mountain range comes to Colombia and breaks in 3 branches. Basically, when we talk about Pacific coast in Colombia, we are talking all the field that exists at the west of the west branch from the Andes mountain range, and it's particularly because this geographical situation gave a kind of isolation that gives like the possibility to keep safe and without influence of the rest of the country in some cultural issues. The particular thing is, if you see right in the middle of the second map, Colombia only has 2 highways to go to move to the Pacific coast. And this is particular because the South Highway, which is in Tumaco, is in very bad condition. And in the number 2, in the map you are seeing to your right in the number 2 is Buena Ventura located. Buena Ventura is the main port in the Pacific coast, and is the real has the highway that originally works well to connect with the rest of the country. So the people who live in the south of Chocó, the whole Valle coast, the Cauca coast, and mostly of the Nariño coast, if those people want to come into the country, they have to take a boat to Buenaventura and then take the highway. That's the important point of why Buenaventura is important in this conversation, because it's basically like metropole from the Pacific coast. I think if you want to show the next map, yes. So this is the map of Buenaventura, the territory. But the interesting thing is the red part, right? Yes. This is the urban part from Buenaventura. So the territory from Buenaventura is huge. I think it's the biggest city in terms of space from the country, but the urban part is only this red part. And if you see the structure is a little like a line because the city grow at the sides of the highway. Okay, so this is in general about Buenaventura. Now, what is the meaning? We 3 comes from Cali. We study in Cali. What is the meaning of the relationship between Cali and Buenaventura? Cali is 2 hours away from highway from Buenaventura, and it's the 3rd city from the country. So this relation, this cultural relationship between Cali and Buenaventura. The other thing is Cali, I think, is the 2nd city with the highest Afro descent, the 3rd city with the highest Afro population in America, in the whole continent. So we are talking a city with about probably 1,200,000 of African descent in the same city. It's because this connection between Cali and Buenaventura through the highway, and that gave us like a bridge, a cultural bridge between the African Colombian descent from the Pacific and Cali, and this continued communication between Cali and Buenaventura. That's why basically why we are there. So this is that introduction about geography.
Thank you so much. I hope it's clear to our audience. I mean, we started with a map. It's always good to know where we're talking about, but we really need to, when we're talking about Afro-Colombian theater, it's usually concentrated in the specific region. And we just kind of wanted to convey to you the fact that this region is isolated. You know, not just, you know, because of the mountain range, but also because of the infrastructure, as Manuel has suggested. So to start, I think our panel, I'd like to now draw in, you know, I wanted to draw from the unique experience of our panelists, all three of whom have taught and you, Manuel, have set up this BA. It's a dramatic arts BA degree at the Universidad del Valle in Buena Ventura. So I wanted to just it would be great if you guys shared with us a little bit about this, because this is an area, this is a degree course that has happened to attract quite a lot of Afro-Colombian talent, just because of the nature of the ethnic community around it. So maybe since you're here, Manuel, would you like to just tell us a little bit about your involvement? Because I think you were one of the people who helped set up this BA in dramatic arts.
Yeah, well, this is connected with something that I thought we were going to talk later, but it's okay. So when I was doing my BA in Cali in the Universidad del Valle, so the same university we got our degree as BAs, I was part from a research group, and we started to work with Spanish Golden Age plays. So I was part from a play who was showed the Teatro Colón in Bogotá. I was one of the stars from the play. And like it was like an adaptation of the Spanish Golden Age as a Pacific Coast culture tale. In this process, in Bogotá, the people were interested to, hey, you have very good Black actors, where do you find them? So no, they are from Cali, but all this like culture exploration help us that, hey, we are interested to bring a workshop to Buena Ventura or someplace in the Pacific coast to try to improve or find or explore what happened with the talent of those people. So I was part of the first workshop that was there. So I went as a professor. We worked with this workshop. This was like 3 years in a row, working and like find people and give them some tools. After those 3 years, we start to work with festivales intercolegiados de teatro, like inter-school festivals. And we invite people from the schools to try to create short plays and bring the plays to the university branch in Buena Ventura. And after like 5 years to doing this exploration, the university board decided to open a program because they say, okay, we have a public, we have people interested, and we have the support of the university. Maybe we can explore to open a branch of the program, the BA program in Buena Ventura. So that was basically like the trace, like the history of how we decide to move to Buena Ventura.
Thank you. Yeah, Eddy, do you want to add anything about being involved at the university in the BA course? Because I think, Eddy, because I think all our three panelists represent three different cycles of this sort of BA degree, which has been so important for the community and for sort of thinking about Black theater and Black acting in Colombia. Eddy, do you want to add anything?
Probably I want to excuse first because probably you don't understand what I'm saying. But if it is so, you tell me and I switch to Spanish. I think Buenaventura, the teaching in Buenaventura has 3 moments, yes. At first, when was Manuel and Diego Burgos, they too started teaching when all this process that Manuel just talked about happened, and was to find out how they could do it. When we get out, when we get started, me and other colleagues, we had only one question: how to teach theater in Buenaventura and how to manage the cultural thing. I mean, there is this thought that the Black people had this natural talent for everything. So how we can teach this if this thought is in the mind, not just from the people who is not born in Buena Ventura, but for for themselves. So the question was, how can we be, these actors, be able of acting something more than Buenaventura people? It is important that they do that, or it is important that they talk about what people think is Buenaventura culture, because what people think is not exactly what it is. It is more like a cliche of what a Black person is in Colombia. So in that exercise, each teacher took a road. And in my case, I tried to make actors make.
Encouraged.
Yeah, okay. Actors that be able of acting everything. Because I think you're an actor. I mean, you have to do it. And that was my exercise with them. But then was another teacher who was trying to talk about those things that people think it is the culture. So the music, so that I'm not saying it's not, but it's what sells the more. And Manuel has question about the relationship between the United States and Buenaventura that is very strong in the imaginary of the people. So he had that question, he have had that question since then till now. And yes, I think we have been working in that. And now when Joanna is teaching there, I think the question is more together in the road that the teachers are taking to answer it. Because it is a process and is getting bigger. Yeah. I don't think that came out well, but thank you.
Oh, that was great. Thank you. Just as a way of sort of, I guess, just recapping some of what was said. So, again, our three panelists have been involved in this sort of very seminal BA in dramatic arts. And what's interesting, just picking up on what you just said, Eddy, the notion of that there is this larger imaginary in the country of what a Black actor should be. So so I guess our audience members should know. So Manuel was involved. He was an actor. He was one of the first. I think actually no, he was the first Black actor to take a starring role in the Teatro Colón in Bogotá, which is one of the nation's sort of most historic theaters. This was in 2002, so 21st century, everybody. But so once you start sort of, I guess the nation is aware of sort of talent, there are various assumptions that are made. And this is something that it sounds like it's a core part of the program, so that you're something that you're exploring with students. And your solution, it sounded like you're teaching this idea of teaching actors how to be malleable, how to take on multiple roles is quite important. But it's interesting that you have to kind of, with your students, think about how to deal with these stereotypes and all this wider imaginary. Maybe we can bring in Joanna here. Joanna, do you want to tell us about the festivals and the role that, because a lot of your work through the university has also been about working with local festivals, both at the national and local level. Joanna, do you want to tell us about the festivals?
Hello, everybody. Thanks for the invitation. I'm so excited for being here. Gracias. Es un honor para mí estar aquí. Bueno, sí, respecto a... Primero voy a tomar un poco el tema del que venían hablando mis compañeros.
So thank you everybody for being here. So I just want to kind of add a little bit to what my colleagues have been talking about.
Acerca de la visión que tienen los estudiantes respecto al estereotipo que se tiene de ellos desde afuera.
So about the sort of the vision that the students have about the kind of a stereotype that is accorded to them as performers.
Y este punto es muy importante porque el año pasado participamos en un festival virtual de mujeres afro en escena.
So this is very important because last year we participated in a virtual online festival.
Donde el requisito principal era que más de la mitad del crew, del grupo, estuviese conformado por personas afro, mujeres.
Okay, so the point was that more than half of the cast were playing Afro characters.
Exacto. Y hay una idea de lo afro muy distinta en Buenaventura, porque afro no es solamente la persona que tiene la piel oscura.
So this is something very particular to Buena Ventura because the Afro is not just somebody who has a dark skin.
Uh-huh. Digamos que lo afro lo define también lo cultural, las tradiciones, las dinámicas sociales, y en Buenaventura hay personas que tú ves que físicamente son blancas, pero se han criado con unas formas de ser y unas formas de relacionarse muy afro.
So this is particular in Buenaventura because Afro isn't just about the color of skin, it's about tradition, it's about culture. And so there are people in Buenaventura with white skin who have characteristics that might be described as Afro because they have grown up in that culture.
Y en ese sentido, los festivales a veces, si bien buscan visibilizar las producciones afro, con este sesgo le quita la oportunidad a otras personas que también hacen parte de esto, de participar en estos encuentros.
Okay, so
es lo que yo pienso.
Thing is with the festivals, so sometimes because of this, it takes away the ability of other people to who've grown up in the culture to participate in these festivals because they are also part of that culture. Is that, sorry, just is that okay, Joanna? If you're not quite, if I haven't quite translated it correctly, please correct me.
Está muy bien, gracias.
Okay, está bien.
Bueno, es muy interesante porque en Buenaventura, a pesar de que hay mucho talento, muchísimo talento.
So it's really important because in Buenaventura, apart from the fact that there's a lot of talent, a real lot of talent.
Y tenemos una escuela de teatro.
And we've got a theatre school.
No contamos con un teatro como tal, no hay una infraestructura teatral donde los actores se presenten.
We don't have an actual theatre building. There isn't a place where the actors can go to present a show.
Entonces, pues digamos que nos ha tocado movilizarnos, tocar puertas en otras ciudades. Digamos que nuestro escenario principal es Cali. También hemos tenido la oportunidad de presentarnos en Bogotá. Y ahora, gracias a la virtualidad, pues hemos tenido la oportunidad de que nos vean en muchísimas otras partes.
So that means that we've kind of toured a lot. So we've found places, we've been to Cali, we've been to Bogotá, to lots of other places to tour our shows.
Uh-huh. Pero obviamente soñamos con el día de tener nuestro teatro para tener un espacio para nuestros actores y para la gente que venga afuera a compartir y a interactuar su arte con los actores y con todo el talento de Buenaventura, incluidos ustedes, por supuesto, están invitados desde ya.
So obviously we dream of having our own space, a space where people can come from outside Buenaventura to watch our shows, a place that people can come to. And of course, everybody, all of you out there watching this, you're also very welcome.
Thank you, gracias, thank you. So just a little bit conscious of the time, there's a couple of other things we wanted to kind of just touch on, because the idea behind this panel, we kind of wanted to give everybody an idea of all the many challenges that sort of there are across the Colombian landscape and across specifically the Pacific region and Buenaventura, where there happens to now be this great program dedicated to dramatic arts and theater, which our panelists have been involved. But I also want to turn to the plays of Eddy, and then also some of the plays plays that also Joanna has directed. We have some trailers to show you. But before we get to there, I just want to again to briefly touch on again the landscape of these challenges. Maybe if we can just touch on, maybe Manuel, you can just share with us a little bit about the resources and the funds that are available since 1992, specifically towards fostering Afro-Colombian theater. So I'll turn over to Manuel.
Yes, I would like to come back to this idea of the Afro-Colombian identity, because it's important in terms of we had a constitution from 1886, which was changed in 1991. The first constitution, the old one, think this idea of the Colombian as a whole identity. The constitution from 1991 creates those categories because talks about Colombia as a pluricultural and multi-ethnic country. So that means that institutionally, the institution recognized that we have several cultural layers into the country. So that creates this category of Afro-Colombian, which is not a category based on the skin color, and it's more, so we can read about the constitution, but talks about a cultural identity. And this is important because in some places, as Buena Ventura and in the Caribbean coast, we have, you know, about the miscegenation is the word, or mestizaje, this idea of crossing of races. There are a lot of people who are not exactly, or do not have dark skin, but these people recognize themselves as African descent because they have the cultural tradition, all the practice and ritual things. This is from one side, and that's important because even though Buena Ventura has like 85% population based on African Colombian descent, but there are other group of people who has the same, they feel that they are strong connected, and we need to recognize that. This is the first part. And the second part is something that Joanna talks about, the school, and I think it's, we had some questions that crossed the time into school, and this is first the idea of how to use theater as a building if the community needs the theater as a building. How we can use theater, how can we reflect about theater as a social and cultural practice into the Pacific community, the Pacific Coast community in Colombia. How to use theater as a tool, and how to work with theater against the bias and along themselves. So this is important because this was like the bullet points that every time across the time, I think listening my colleagues now, is like the things that works that cross our work through the time. I think it's important to keep that in mind. It doesn't matter which kind of school or technique we use. I think we are building our technique to the Pacific Coast. We came from, we studied in a school that was based on Russian technique, but was transformed in Cali, but then transformed in Buena Ventura, and now it's transformed to I don't know what, but I think that is working a lot. So that's just to
Great, thank you. Thank you for that extra contextualization. Sorry, Eddy, did you want to add to that?
Sorry.
Yes.
No, I'm gonna ask you to Manuel who answered the question because I think it is important to talk about the process and how now there is money to make theater with this theme, and before it wasn't. And I think Manuel had an opinion very strong and important about that.
About the money, you say? Yes.
Sobre las becas y el gobierno y estas cosas.
Yeah, okay. This is the thing, that Colombia is a country that is looking to the north every time. So after 2008, after the Obama's election, we don't have so much budget to do work. So the project in Buena Ventura was an exception into the natural Colombia, the structure or budget institutional project. That was good. We have to say thank you to the people that support us, as Clarissa Ruiz, as Alejandro Gonzalez, and all the people in the university, in the Universidad del Valle and Culture Ministry from Colombia. But only after 2008, with the Obama's election, Colombia said, okay, United States has a Black president. So now we need to support the Black community in Colombia. So after 2008, we became, I said, los negros estamos de moda en Colombia después de 2008, which means like Colombia has a Black fashionism after 2008, which is in the bad side, in the wrong side, promote the exotism of our culture, but in the good side, open a lot of opportunities to get to access to grants and budget to work with some things related with our culture. There are not too good examples as Cali, which spend much of the money in salsa schools. I don't know, I do not say that that's bad, but the salsa school is like taking most of the money that we need to use to reading programs, to library programs, to theater programs, to other dances programs. Yeah, Buena Ventura has other cases now, like the last, after, for example, the peace agreement signed, most of the people are moving to use everything must be related with healing and peace building and other things. So if you're gonna get access to resources in Colombia, you have to talk about Black and peace. Basically, that's what happened now.
Can I just ask a further question? Because this is, I think this is an issue in many countries where there are sort of marginalized communities. How do they determine who the funds go to? So you said that there's money now to support the Black community. Let's say, for example, in theater, do the plays have to be about Black issues, or is it just simply enough to have a Black playwright or a Black crew? So this is, I think, an issue that I think we will probably run across the whole of today. Is that something that the government or these funds differentiate? Manuel.
I don't know. I don't want to cut my colleague now, but this is something that I saw from here. Like most of those projects are developed so they must be developed in the places. Like or Buena Ventura, or Tumaco, or Quibdó, or Timbiquí, or what.
They're specific to a location, and that's enough. Location
there. One of those problems is, like, for example, some people from Bogotá, which is right in the center of the capital of the country. White people in Bogotá, they went 1 or 2 times to the Pacific coast and they wrote the project, and then they move to the coast to do the projects. I think that is not bad totally, but you need a little bit more time to understand what happened in the locations to do that. Last year, for example, was the Manuel Zapata Olivella year. It was designed by the Culture Ministry. I did a research about that because most of this homenaje, I don't know how to say that, most of this, was based on the literary work from Zapata, which is great. But I was working with the personal archives of this person. He had interest in an amazing work based on Pan-Africanism and Black identity in Colombia and Black history in Colombia. So I think that must be most important, because if the institution recognize that, are really understanding and being aware of Black community in Colombia, and not only this is a Black playwright or this is a Black novelist, and so that.
Well, thank you. I think just again, looking in the interest of time. Oh, Joanna, do you want to add? Sorry, you have your hand raised. Please, Joanna.
Sí, bueno, yo desde mi experiencia puedo decir que más allá del casting hay un asunto y son las pasiones y los conflictos humanos lo que nos une, ¿verdad?
So I just wanted to add, so apart from the things to do with casting, there's something else. ¿Se puede repetir la última parte, Joanna?
Que son los conflictos y las pasiones humanas lo que nos une como humanos.
Okay, so it's to do with the passions and conflicts of human beings, that we, all human beings.
Sí, más allá de la raza, ¿cierto? Pero como creadora, como artista, como directora y como actriz.
So more than just about race, as a creative person, as a director, as an actress.
No puedo desconocer mi contexto. Entonces, en mi caso particular, yo trabajé una obra que se llama Voicek, que es una obra que fue escrita inicialmente en Alemania y pues evidentemente si la voy a montar en Buenaventura, pues debo escuchar y ver mi contexto. No es que porque seamos negros vamos a actuar de X o Y forma, pero sí que hay que entender que ese conflicto es un conflicto humano, pero lo aterrizo a mi contexto.
So it's as much as anything, it's to do with context, because I've directed Wojciech, which is a German play, and I've taken it to Buena Ventura, but it's not just about it being a play that's from Germany in Buena Ventura, it's about the context that we bring to it.
Actually, I wonder, just to briefly stop, I have a brief trailer of this play. I wonder if now's a good time to briefly share it with all of you, so that way we can start for this last bit of the panel. We can actually turn to some of the work that that is being produced in Buenaventura. So I'll just briefly share my screen with you. I'll just show you the trailer of the play that Joanna, that we just mentioned.
Llorar, negro, deja de llorar, tu negra se ha ido y no volverá, negro, deja de...
Great. So that was a trailer of the play that Joanna just mentioned. Joanna, do you want to add anything? ¿Quieres añadir un poco más sobre tu experiencia con esa obra, with staging this play en Buenaventura?
Sí, voy a hablar un poco de la historia. Yo te mandé el documento, no sé si lo quieres compartir para que sea más fácil.
Yeah, so I'll just read you a brief synopsis of this play. So as he said, it's an adaptation of a German play. So, but it's been adapted to contemporary Buenaventura, to this community that we've been talking to you about today. So it tells a story of a limited resource private, I guess in the military from Buenaventura, who is faced on a daily basis with a hostile environment that is committed to convincing him that he has no value because of his poor social position. In his search for improving his economic situation, so that he can guarantee his family's future, he finds himself forced to take part on a clandestine investigation with a doctor from the capital. So the experiment disturbs his perception of reality, bringing fatal consequences to the young private Mina and his family, formed by Maria, his wife, and his son, Christian. So Buchner's play is a milestone of 19th century German dramaturgy, and the protagonists represent the individual in its struggle for getting decent life conditions in an environment with low opportunities. So Mina represents the hope, the will of individuality crashing against a wall of adversities. So do you want to just tell us about how you remade that 19th century play for Buenaventura?
Exacto, sí, pues digamos que aquí hablando pues del contexto, entonces Wojciech es un apellido alemán, entonces pues yo no le iba a poner Wojciech a mi protagonista porque en Buenaventura pues la gente, hice el ejercicio de preguntar qué entienden por Wojciech y la gente no tenía ni idea qué era eso. Entonces,
okay. So just to say, because Wojciech is obviously a German name, we're talking about context, so obviously I had to change the name because in Buenaventura, nobody would have any idea who that was or wouldn't mean anything to them.
Entonces, bueno, el protagonista le decidimos poner Mina, que Mina es un apellido muy negro, ¿sí? Muy afro.
So I gave him the name Mina because it's a surname that's really Afro, and people will recognize that.
Pero volviendo al tema que te decía ahora, que más allá de la barrera del color, de la raza, está el asunto humano. Entonces, este es un hecho de un hombre que termina asesinando a su esposa, ocurrió en Alemania en 1812, pero resulta que en Buenaventura estas cosas siguen pasando y en todo el mundo lastimosamente siguen pasando. Y eso es una cosa que va más allá de la barrera del idioma, del color, de la edad y de la época. Es un conflicto actual que todavía nos toca, lastimosamente.
Okay, so this is something, okay, it's a play that was written, you know, many years ago, last 19th century in Germany, but it's about a man who he kills his wife. And this is something that's happening, you know, nowadays in Buena Ventura. So it's about things that happen to human beings. It's not just about something that happened in Germany many years ago.
Y sumado a esto, vivimos en un abandono estatal, ¿sí? Porque el Estado se olvida que existe Buenaventura y solamente van algunas empresas a aprovecharse de sacar provecho de este lugar y de estas personas. Entonces, de alguna forma, hago yo una metáfora entre ese personaje de Wojciech y la ciudad de Buenaventura.
So in a way, I'm making a metaphor between the characters in Wojciech and the city of Buenaventura.
Uh-huh. Entonces, ahí me pregunto yo, no es un asunto, evidentemente en los territorios negros existen esos problemas, pero desde nuestra mirada se hace una resignificación de este problema.
Because it's not just in you know, the Black culture that these problems happen. So I'm trying to kind of re-signify the kind of how people see this problem.
Thank you. Just thinking about time. Thank you so much, Joanna. That's really, really fascinating. Just giving you guys an idea of all the many, you know, the great work that's being done in Buena Ventura and the ways in which you can, like this, you can re-signify these plays. So they take on multiple resonances in this community. Maybe Eddy, since you've written some plays, I mean, recently, do you want to just tell us a little bit about your work? And maybe I'm thinking specifically about Las Mujeres de Sara, which is a play. It's obviously a play that you wrote, so it's not an adaptation. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about that play, which deals with racialization of sexuality and just racism in generally. Do you want to just share a little bit with us about your work?
I like to write about women in general. So all my plays had a woman as a protagonist. And in Las Mujeres de Sara is a Black woman specifically, because what happened in the story happened because she's Black. There is no other reason for what happened. She is raped for her teacher in the school, in the college. And it happened at the end, but all what is going on in the play goes to that moment. Her mom is, how do you say, violentada por el papá de ella, violentada por el esposo.
She's abused by her husband?
She's abused by her husband, and she don't know how to deal with that problem. At the end, when she is raped, the last text that she says is, "Mom, I get it. Sometimes you just you just can't." So she gave up at the end of the play. All this story had another story that is like a reflection from a character from the real life, that is Sarah Bartman. And she was a woman who was exhibida como freak show because of the size of her butt. And there is a whole story around her about how she was first a freak show, then a prostitute, and died from, people don't know pretty well, probably because she was alcoholic. And whole this story about the exotización alrededor de su cuerpo. Please translate that.
So she was exoticized because of the shape of her body, this kind of exoticization of her body.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And that is what popped together the whole story. So Las Mujeres de Sara is a feminist group where Sara, the protagonist, is and all the Black women, except one, all the Black woman who has a problem for her race and have not tried to enfrentar el opresor, por decirlo de alguna manera.
To confront the oppressor.
All of them calls Sara. Then las mujeres de Sara are the group of feminists and all the Black woman who has an oppressor. And that is the play.
Great. That's great. I'm again conscious of the time. I think we only have a couple of minutes. I wonder if there's any questions from our audience. So I know we've covered a whole range of topics, but hopefully this panel has introduced to you sort of all the many complexities of theater in Colombia, not just, obviously in terms of education, in terms of acting, in terms of putting on directing plays and also writing plays. But we have a whole wealth of talent available that is now finally getting some recognition, although of course still faced with some, sort of very important questions with regard to stereotyping and the wider imaginaries about what, Black means in the country. Are there any questions from our audience? I think there was one specifically about the BA program, where it was situated, and it's been answered. It's in Buena Ventura, which is, we showed you briefly in those maps. Which is part of the University del Valle, which has a number of campuses. But maybe you guys can just answer quickly. There's a question about, because you three have taught on this program, how do you create your corpus or the plays? So obviously, Joanna, you're engaging with German theater. Can you just say a little bit more about what kinds of plays your students are exposed to?
I would like to say something about the program. This is a program that is more European model based, and I think that is like, we work as a conservatory, so we have like a high rate of level hours based on acting. It's most focused on acting, but our students can develop works as director, as a dramaturgy, or even though lately as social, like a literary community, like cultural management people, like the work has their base at this is a Stanislavskian program. Also, we work a lot with Greek tragedies, text, and some European text from, I think, 19th century mostly. But the program has a special turn in the last 4 years. I think it's since the Johanna arrived there. And also now that I'm here in US, I understand like a little bit, this is my impression, this is my view, like the African-American theater is a little bit closed, as we were closed thinking about European theater. So now I think part of my job is trying to connect those communities. I think Joanna did a great job. Joanna has a class, I don't know if she wants to talk about that. She has a class, like the first class in the program, to talk about African diaspora theater. I think it's important that, and I think that comes also from this fight again, this struggle against the bias and the cliche of what must be a Black actor in Colombia.
Right.
I don't know if that answers the question.
So much. I think, let's see, just maybe one final question. Thank you so much to our audience. I know you probably will need your tea break or your coffee break. Just one final question. Have any Afro-Colombian plays been staged at national theaters in Colombia or in other countries? And if so, have those audiences been mostly Afro-Colombian? So it's just a question about the national stage.
Yes and no.
There are two things. I don't know if Eddie wants to. Okay, now that I'm studying Manuel Zapata Olivella, he has, in the late 70s in Colombia, he has a huge project which was called Rambao. Probably people wants to do research about that. And it was like open space play based on an Afro-Colombian descendant who, it's like a folk tale. That was important, a first step, and I think it was at the late 70s. And after that, we don't have more information than now. Now, about the audience, it's important that, I don't know, we are not aware a lot of what our audience is, more than if we go to a specific place as Buena Ventura or as Cali. Cali has a very mixed audience, I think. With the university in Cali and Buena Ventura, we have a strong work trying to bring the place to the neighbors. So I think that's good. In Cali, we went to the Distrito de Agua Blanca several times. Eddy wants to talk about that. I don't know. But in Buena Ventura also with the theater festival and all those things. I don't know. Eddy?
No, I just want to say that I think the audience doesn't depend of what play it is, but what place we are doing the play. I mean, we can be doing Eddy por Rey, but if you are doing that in Buenaventura, the public, the audience is gonna be Black, because that is the people who live there. And if it is in Cali, the people is gonna be mixed because that's Cali. If you go to Bogota, then it's gonna be white because in Bogota is more white people. Then it's not because the place had Black actors, then it's gonna be Black audience. No, it's because we are in Buenaventura or we are in Bogota. Then the audience is the people who live there.
Thank you, Eddy. Maybe just one final comment from Joanna before we conclude our panel. Joanna.
Sí, bueno, tengo entendido que hace como 2 años se estrenó a nivel nacional en el Teatro Colón de Bogotá, que es uno de los más importantes, una versión colombiana con actores afro de Uva pasa bajo el sol. Ese ha sido como, digamos, un evento, pues respondiendo a esta pregunta, importante dentro de esa categoría.
So I understand that 2 years ago, there was a premiere in the theatre in Bogota of a play, which I didn't quite get the title.
Raising Under the Sun?
Raising in the Sun. Yeah.
Raising Under the Sun.
Raising in the Sun, yeah.
Raising Under the Sun, and that was a huge event. That's...
Thank you so much. Right, well, I think... Sorry.
Y sin embargo, creo yo, es muy interesante lo que dice Eddy, es cierto, pero por alguna, o sea, uno no se anda preguntando si son actores negros o no, pero por alguna razón siempre entramos como en una categoría especial. Entonces, el año pasado se creó acá en Cali el Festival de Teatro Afro, en el Teatro La Máscara, también uno de los teatros más importantes de Cali. Entonces queda como la pregunta de por qué una obra de actores negros no puede ir a un festival simplemente, sino que tiene que haber un festival de teatro afro para nosotros.
So what Eddy was saying is very true in terms of, like, it doesn't matter who the actors are, it's more like who the audience is and the place, but it's also true that a special festival was created, you know, for Afro theatre. And so you come back to that question, why does there have to be a special, you know, festival? Why can't it just be a theatre festival for everybody?
Ya, y rápidamente, yo soy la que menos habla inglés, pero la que más hablo aquí. Bueno, con esto de la virtualidad, se abrió un espacio de llegar a muchos lugares, y en mi caso yo monté una obra que se llama Queloide, que fue creada desde la virtualidad, y la difusión fue virtual, y sé que llegó a muchos territorios donde la gente no tiene la oportunidad de ver teatro, y mucha de esa gente fue gente afro, mamás, madres, cabeza de hogar que nunca han visto una obra de teatro, y que esta obra, por su temática tan cruda, les tocó el corazón.
Okay, and I just want to say, because my show Queloide, which was created and also was disseminated virtually, and it did reach a lot of Afro audiences, people who wouldn't habitually go to the theatre, and it reached them, and it really touched their hearts.
Well, thank you very much. I think that we're coming to the end of our conversation. I know we're a little bit over. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope that you got a sense of sort of all the challenges and all the various issues that for Black theater in Colombia. We're now going to take a 7-minute break, but please join us again at 4 p.m. GMT when my colleague William Gregory will be joined by Laila Benitez James and Dr. Jeffrey Coleman for a session focusing on theater in Spain. Also, please stay in touch with Out of the Wings on our website. This is OOTWfestival.com or via social media. Thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you again in a few minutes. Thank you.